Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening.
It's now the part of the evening when we can sit back and relax after some wining and dining. And pleasant conversation, I hope, if we've got the table plans right. As apart from the three of us at the table here, I'm afraid to have to entertain you for the next 20 minutes or so. And I think I can speak for all of them. This moment seems to come very fast this evening. And I think I'm going to leave the entertainment to my two very able successors here. Maybe not. One morning, 30 years, 6 months, 25 days ago, I was sitting by a bed in Kingston Hospital after a very sleepless night, following the arrival of my first daughter, Deborah, who had, for the first time in her life, and probably for those of you who know her well, the last time in her life, arrived late. I'd just been told that I had a lovely baby daughter, and I turned to the body sitting in the bed next to me, this bright, pink, damp, exhausted body. This is Roz I'm talking about. And I said, we'd better start saving for the wedding then. I know, I can see you all think, God, just like a banker. Well, I have been up all night. It was probably not the most inspired remark to make, the first remark on such a momentous occasion. But little did I realise then how happy and proud I would be to be standing here 30 years later, on that day, and to see her looking so happy, radiant, and beautiful.
Yeah.
Naturally, I paid no attention to, in later years, to the content of what I said in my remarks. I have, of course, been blessed with two beautiful daughters. Caroline is one of our lovely bridesmaids here today. She's also a very, very thoughtful girl. Only last week she came up to me and she said, "Dad, don't worry about the cost of my wedding. But I only want a very small one, and I may want to elope anyway." At least I think it was her who said it to me. It might have been that rather strange dream I had on Monday. Anyway, not to worry, it might have sown the seed of some sort of thought process. Both Deborah and Ben are, of course, keen tennis players. Well, Ben is when his various injuries allow him. And it was, of course, tennis that brought them together through their mutual friend, Claire. I must admit to admiring Ben for his patience and perseverance in pursuing what was initially a rather hesitant Deborah. From the initial suggestion of a game of tennis at Surbiton, then a more regular game, then a game followed by a meal, finally winning her over. Since then, they have, of course, become a winning pair on the court, having won the Surbiton Club Mixed Doubles Championship. Hey. And I'm certain they will be as successful off the court as well. You know, they say you should never marry a tennis player because to them, love means nothing. I'm sure in both cases again, it's very, very far from that. As a true gentleman, Ben did, of course, ask my permission to marry Deborah, though I do understand that afterwards he did sort of complain that I never actually said yes. Well, let me explain the circumstances. One Saturday, just over a year ago, Deborah phones up and says they're on their way round, and would I mind checking the tyre pressures on her car with my pump? They arrive. Deborah vanishes into the house with the speed of light. I'm left there doing the tyres, with Ben hovering over me.
In a nice way.
After a while, he said to me, I took Deborah to a hotel in London last night. And locked her in the bedroom until she agreed to marry me. Is that all right with you? Well, it's not quite exactly what he said, it's the gist of what he said. He didn't actually say that he locked her in the bedroom. Knowing Ben's sense of humour, I think it's the way he would have liked to have put it. Ben, I'm sure I must have said something positive at the time, but just for the record, yes, you may. And you welcome me to our family, and your monster slippers. I thought I'd get that in. This is coming up. monsterslippers.co.uk. Deborah's been a wonderful daughter and is a lovely girl. I looked up the definition of lovely and it said beautiful, charming, delightful, a pint of lager on a hot day. She's definitely three of those, to decide which ones. She's always been a very hard worker and determined to achieve. And from an early age she has always been very talkative. In fact, it's very hard to shut her up sometimes. So it's probably no surprise that she developed a flair for languages, something which I've always been a bit envious of because certainly she didn't inherit that from me. This has enabled her to travel, and it was to our relief that she decided, following her finishing of her university course, that she decided to work in Germany rather than in Russia. Much safer place. Look after her, Ben. We're lucky to have her. I'm so glad that so many of our and their friends and family have been able to join Ben and Deborah in this very special day today. Some have had to travel some distance to be with us, with a number of guests coming from Germany, where Deborah used to work for some time. And Ross's cousin Margaret has travelled from Australia with her son John to be with us here today. That's the same John that Deborah had a somewhat unusual blind holiday date with some years ago. When she met him for the very first time on Pisa railway station in Italy. Didn't start off too good because he turned up late. And I've already mentioned that because it's timekeeping. But they did eventually start talking, and I think enjoyed the week together. I'm sure Ben will be saying a few thank yous in a minute, but there's one that I would particularly like to add myself, and that is to my blind wife Ros, who has spent a considerable time and energy in choosing her dress for tonight. but even more in the planning and organisation to make today the success of me. Many of you may know that I've not been too well over the past 3 months, and this has put additional pressure on her, as I haven't been able to help quite as much as usual. I think she might actually say it's probably helped, because I haven't been able to interfere quite as much. I'm certain you will all want to join me in wishing Ben and Deborah a long and happy marriage. There's a definition of marriage I came across that appealed to my banker's mind, which was: marriage is an eternal contract in which one party obtains from the other more than either may ever hope to repay. We all hope that your mutual debt to each other be forever long term. I'd now like you to join me in a toast to the bride and groom.